Is there a way to, because what you're talking about to me is the future that we want to strive for, without question. But we are so far on the other side that that bridge to get to that space that you're talking about, which to me is what New Earth would be. How did we bridge?
So when I interpret or read living systems to answer that question, my sense is that we don't bridge.
Okay.
But let me try and say a little more. I think many of the human systems that we've created are so far away from being alive and able to produce life and life producing compatible, etc., that it's not realistic to try and imagine changing them. However, it is probably quite easy to imagine letting them wither away and die. So that would be sort of speaking to one of the processes of nature, which I think Buzz Holling does one of the best jobs of capturing, which is the adaptive cycle. So, there's growth, there's maturity, and then there's release and death, and then essentially the components of whatever was living get broken down, and then they provide the nutrients for that cycle to go around again. I think we could look at, I think it's generally accepted that we're in at least the 6th mass extinction event at the moment. Mm-hmm. We could argue that this cycle that I just mentioned is happening and has happened before, and we're simply in our release phase of this particular one. The question is like, can we, as humans with this level of awareness and this ability to imagine a different future, can we sort of accept and participate in that process in healthy ways, such that ideally, like, we would like to be part of that cycle, such that we can actually be part of generating the next thing, as opposed to being part of what actually dies in this release. So that kind of, in my mind, in my interpretation of nature, suggests an approach that is aligned with nature in terms of how to bring something else about, a different way of being and living, is to build it from the grassroots up. And so have the things that are required in our group, our organization, our little human system, have them honor these requirements for life in their very inception, and continually build and strengthen them as it builds up to a scale that is functional, so maintains its function, doesn't get too big, but is also still able to do something way beyond the ability of us to do things if we're just a single human in a environment operating independently. I think that's our challenge, and I would argue that we've done this before in previous Indigenous ways of being and living, but for whatever reason, and let's just accept it as being part of the human experience and potentially a positive part of the human experience, we have this ability to abstract and think about things outside of the real world and bring things about that aren't living. And it's very powerful, and it's been able to dominate, probably in most part because of ignorance. It's been able to dominate the way that we've been thinking for the last couple of thousand years. But if we look at the human experience, it is pretty recent in terms of history, and it by no means captures all of it.